In the heart of the African savanna, where the golden grass swayed gently under the warm sun, there lay a small village surrounded by dense forests and winding rivers. The villagers, simple people bound by tradition and superstition, lived in harmony with the land. Mud huts with thatched roofs dotted the landscape, and children's laughter often echoed through the dusty pathways. But beneath the surface of this serene village lay secrets. The elders feared to speak aloud. At the edge of the village lived a young woman named Amahal. She was known for her kindness and gentle nature, but life had not been kind to her. Widowhood had struck her early, leaving her to care for her infant child alone. Despite the hardships, she held hope in her heart, praying that her child would grow up surrounded by love and protection. Yet the whispers among the villagers hinted at a darker truth. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the horizon, painting the sky in deep oranges and purples, a sinister shadow crept over the village. Rumors had spread that Amal's child was cursed, a bearer of misfortune that could bring famine or sickness. Driven by fear and superstition, some villagers plotted a heart-wrenching decision. The infant must be buried alive to protect the rest. Amahal, unaware of the growing fear, sang lullabies to her child, her voice soft and comforting. But fate, cruel as it often seemed, had other plans. The elders met in the dim light of the central hut, debating the unthinkable. Each word weighed heavily, torn between morality and survival. Finally, under the cover of darkness, they carried out the chilling plan. The baby, wrapped in a thin cloth, was placed gently into a shallow grave at the forest's edge. Amahal, fast asleep in her hut, remained oblivious to the horror unfolding beyond her doorstep. As the villagers covered the grave with soil, a strange hush fell over the land. The usual sounds of nocturnal wildlife seemed muted, as though nature itself held its breath. Some elders whispered prayers, while others muttered under their breath, afraid of drawing the child's supposed curse. Fear mingled with guilt, creating an atmosphere thick with tension and unease. Yet, even in the darkness of tragedy, the land held a mysterious vitality. The soil beneath the infant's resting place seemed unusually rich, as if it hummed with a hidden life. A soft breeze rustled the nearby trees, carrying an eerie sense of anticipation. Something had begun, something beyond human understanding, something that would soon shock the entire village. Amahal awoke at dawn to the quiet emptiness of her home. Her instincts told her something was wrong. She searched for her child, calling out through the village, but the echoes returned hollow and empty. Panic surged through her, yet a strange calmness lingered in the air, as if the earth itself was conspiring to reveal a secret only it knew. The villagers avoided her gaze, their faces painted with guilt and fear, and so the stage was set. What seemed like a tragic ending would, in reality, mark the beginning of an extraordinary tale, one where life, death, and nature intertwined in ways that defied understanding. Little did Amahal and the villagers know, from the ground where tragedy had struck, something miraculous was about to grow, something that would challenge their beliefs, shake their fears, and ultimately transform the village forever. Night had fallen over the village like a heavy, velvet cloak, blanketing the dusty pathways and thatched rooftops in shadow. The air was thick with tension, carrying the smell of burning firewood from small cooking fires and the earthy scent of the surrounding forest. Only a few villagers dared to venture out, whispering hurriedly to one another as they approached the designated spot at the forest's edge. It was here, under the cover of darkness, that the tragic act would be carried out. Amel's child, unaware of the impending danger, slept peacefully in the small cradle woven from reeds. But fate had already marked the night for sorrow. The elders, their faces etched with worry and determination, led a group of villagers carrying the infant carefully in their arms. The moonlight filtered through the branches above, casting eerie patterns on the ground, and the forest seemed to lean closer. As though watching the scene unfold, they arrived at a small clearing just beyond the village, where the earth had already been dug. The grave was shallow, barely wide enough to contain the tiny body, yet deep enough to separate it from the world of the living. One elder, the village head, murmured a prayer, his voice quivering as he asked the spirits to forgive them. Others simply lowered the child into the ground, their hands trembling as they worked with quiet desperation as soil covered the infant. A strange stillness settled over the forest. The usual chorus of crickets, frogs, and distant animal calls vanished, leaving a profound silence that pressed down on the villagers' hearts. Some began to mutter incantations, trying to ward off any imagined curse, while others avoided looking directly at the grave, afraid that even a glance might bring misfortune. Yet, in the midst of darkness and dread, a faint shimmer of life began to stir beneath the surface. Tiny roots, unseen by the human eye, twisted and curled within the soil. A gentle warmth emanated from the earth, almost imperceptible, but enough to make the villagers shiver. It was as if the land itself had absorbed the innocence of the child, holding it close and preparing to reveal a secret too powerful for fear or superstition to suppress. As the villagers retreated back toward their homes, a few brave souls lingered at the edge of the forest, drawn by a strange pull. A soft rustle in the soil made them pause, hearts pounding in the night. Could it be the spirits? Or perhaps some supernatural force tied to the child? Fear wrestled with curiosity, and in that tense moment, the forest seemed to pulse with life, whispering promises of things unseen. Amahal, unaware of the burial, woke to an unsettling feeling that night. Her instincts whispered that something was wrong, yet she could not explain why. She walked to the edge of the village, gazing into the darkness where the forest loomed. Shadows danced among the trees, and a faint glow, almost imperceptible, flickered in the distance. Was it a trick of her eyes, or had something already begun to grow from the ground where her child had been laid to rest? The villagers, meanwhile, returned to their huts with heavy hearts. Some wept quietly, others prayed fervently, but all carried the weight. Little did they know, their actions, driven by fear and superstition, had set in motion a phenomenon that would surpass their understanding. From the very soil they had disturbed, life was beginning to emerge, life that would not be bound by their rules, fears, or expectations. The night deepened, and the stars above twinkled faintly, indifferent to the sorrow below. But the earth, rich with the energy of the savanna and the tragedy it had witnessed, was alive with possibility. Something miraculous, something strange, and something terrifying was about to break through the surface and challenge everything the village believed. Days passed after the tragic burial, yet the village remained uneasy. The air, heavy with the scent of earth and smoke, carried a tension that no laughter or music could dispel. Mothers hushed their children earlier than usual, and even the elders, usually so composed, glanced nervously toward the forest edge. The soil where Amel's child had been buried seemed to hum with a hidden vitality, as though something beyond human understanding was stirring beneath the surface. The first sign appeared subtly, a faint green sprout, delicate yet unnaturally vibrant, pushed through the rich African soil. It shimmered faintly under the midday sun, as if kissed by a mystical light. The villagers noticed it by chance. A young boy, chasing a goat into the forest, stumbled upon the tiny growth. He ran back, wide-eyed, shouting in a mix of fear and wonder. By nightfall, the sprout had grown taller, twisting toward the sky, as though it had been nourished not only by the earth, but by some unseen energy. It emitted a soft, otherworldly glow that illuminated the clearing with a pale, ethereal light. Shadows danced unnaturally across the nearby trees, and the gentle rustle of leaves sounded almost like whispers. Villagers gathered cautiously, drawn by curiosity, but held back by fear. Some whispered of witchcraft, while others claimed it was a miracle. The local herbalist, an old woman named Nia, examined the plant carefully. She could not recognize it. Its leaves shimmered like gold under the moonlight, and tiny buds pulsed with a soft luminescence. "I have never seen a plant like this," she murmured, her voice trembling. "It is not born of soil alone. Something extraordinary is happening here." As the days turned into nights, the plant continued to grow at an impossible rate. Its roots spread deep, entwining with the earth like the fingers of a sleeping giant, and its stem glowed faintly, visible even from the edge of the village. Animals, too, behaved strangely around it. Birds circled in tight patterns above, and nocturnal creatures seemed drawn to the clearing. As if compelled by some mystical signal, Amahal, tormented by the absence of her child, was both fearful and inexplicably drawn to the forest. Night after night, she ventured closer, her eyes fixed on the glowing growth. A mixture of hope and dread filled her chest. Could this be a sign of her child's spirit? Or was it some unnatural consequence of what the villagers had done? Every step she took brought a strange warmth from the earth, as if welcoming her presence while warning her to be cautious. Word spread quickly through the village. Villagers who had once plotted against the child now whispered in awe, their fear mingling with disbelief. Some began to leave small offerings near the glowing plant, fruits, flowers, and handmade charms. Others, paralyzed by superstition, refused to go near it at all. The clearing had become a focal point of both reverence and dread, a place where the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural blurred. As the full moon rose over the African savanna, the plant reached a new stage of growth. Its leaves unfurled like delicate hands reaching for the heavens, and tiny blossoms, each glowing softly, opened to the night air. The villagers watched in silent awe, unable to comprehend the miracle unfolding before their eyes. It was as if life itself had defied death, as if the earth had swallowed tragedy only to return something unimaginable. The village elders, long accustomed to holding power over fear and superstition, felt a tremor of uncertainty. What they had intended as protection had instead awakened something they could neither control nor understand. And deep in Amel's heart, a flicker of hope emerged. Perhaps just perhaps, her child had not been lost forever. And what grew from the ground was the first sign of a profound, mysterious truth. The glowing plant had become the heartbeat of the village. Word of its mysterious growth spread like wildfire, reaching every hut, every corner, and even travelers passing through. The once skeptical villagers now found themselves standing at the edge of the forest in reverent silence, hesitant to cross the invisible boundary of the clearing. Some came with offerings, while others approached with prayers, begging the spirits to reveal the plant's purpose. Fear and awe coexisted uneasily. Mothers held their children tightly, whispering warnings about spirits and curses. The elders, torn between their authority and the undeniable miracle, convened in hushed circles. "This is no ordinary growth," said the village head, his voice trembling despite his normally steady tone. "We must respect it, yet we cannot fully understand it. Perhaps it is the work of our ancestors, or something beyond our knowledge." The herbalist Nia became a central figure, guiding villagers in interpreting the phenomenon. She studied the plant carefully, noting its strange luminescence and the way the soil beneath it seemed richer than any other in the region. "It is feeding on more than water or sunlight," she murmured to a group of villagers. "There is life energy here, something beyond the physical. Perhaps the child's spirit lingers within it." Conflict simmered among the villagers. Some argued that the plant was a blessing, a sign that the spirits of the earth were forgiving them for their tragic actions. Others were convinced it was a curse, a punishment for their fear and cruelty. Every day brought new debates, each voice growing louder than the last. Some villagers even refused to leave their homes after sunset, terrified of being near the plant under the moon's glow. Despite the fear, many were drawn to the clearing. A young couple, holding hands tightly, approached the glowing plant, leaving fruits and clay charms at its base. They prayed for blessings, whispering hopes for fertility and health. Children, curious and fearless, circled around the edges, giggling at the faint glow as if it were a magical game. The elders watched cautiously, torn between approval and anxiety. Amahal, meanwhile, could no longer resist the pull of the forest. Each night she crept to the clearing, her heart pounding with a mix of dread and anticipation. When she saw the plant's glowing leaves and tiny blossoms, a tear slipped down her cheek. "Is it you?" she whispered to the wind, feeling an inexplicable connection to the mysterious growth. Her sorrow, guilt, and love seemed to merge with the energy of the plant. And for the first time since her child's disappearance, she felt hope. But not everyone welcomed Amal's presence. A few villagers muttered warnings about spirits, curses, and revenge from beyond the grave. "She must leave it be," they cried, their voices filled with fear. Yet the plant seemed unaffected by their words, growing taller, stronger, and more luminous with each passing night. The very earth beneath it pulsed with life, as though protecting the miracle it had been. The division within the village deepened. Families debated whether to revere or fear the glowing growth. Some left offerings of food, water, and charms, hoping to honor the unknown force. Others tore through the forest paths, destroying small parts of the clearing out of superstition, only to find the plant unharmed, its glow defying human understanding. It was as if the village itself had become a living canvas, painted with awe, fear, and hope in equal measure. And yet, Beneath the swirling emotions of fear and reverence, the plant continued to thrive. Its blossoms now glimmered like tiny lanterns, illuminating the forest with a gentle, magical light. The villagers, whether they realized it or not, were witnessing something extraordinary, a force of life born from tragedy, bridging the gap between sorrow and wonder. The forest had become a sacred place, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, life had a way of asserting itself. The days had passed, yet the glowing plant showed no signs of slowing. Its leaves shimmered like molten gold under the African sun, and its tiny blossoms pulsed with a gentle, rhythmic light that seemed almost alive. Villagers had long abandoned their doubts, realizing that this was no ordinary phenomenon. Even the elders, once bound by fear and superstition, now approached the clearing with cautious reverence. Amahal, drawn nightly to the miraculous growth, noticed something extraordinary. From within the heart of the plant, a faint aura seemed to form the shape of a small child. The contours were subtle, but unmistakably tiny hand, a delicate face, a soft presence reaching out from the luminous core. Her heart skipped a beat, and tears welled in her eyes. "It's you. It's my baby," she whispered, falling to her knees in awe. Naya, the village herbalist, stepped forward slowly, sensing the significance of the moment. She studied the plant with an intensity that bordered on fear. "This is no curse," she murmured. "Life has not left the child. The energy of the earth, the spirits of our ancestors, they have preserved it. Look closely. This plant holds the essence of the child, transformed by the power of the land itself." The villagers gasped as they leaned closer. The plant's blossoms now pulsed in unison, forming the faint outline of a child's body. Its presence radiated warmth, compassion, and vitality. The glowing energy was not threatening but nurturing, filling the clearing with a sense of peace that had long been absent. For the first time, the village felt a unity that transcended fear and superstition. Questions and emotions swirled together. How could such a thing happen? Why had the child's essence been preserved in this miraculous way? The elders, once rigid in their authority, now bowed their heads in humility. They understood that the life they had tried to destroy had returned in a form far beyond their comprehension, a symbol of hope, resilience, and the mysterious ways of the universe. Amahal reached out, her fingers brushing the glowing leaves. The energy pulsed gently in response, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. Her grief transformed into joy, her sorrow replaced by wonder. The child, though no longer in the physical form she had lost, had become part of something eternal, something that would inspire and protect the village for generations. The forest itself seemed to respond to the revelation. Winds rustled through the trees, carrying a soft, melodic whisper. Birds circled above in graceful arcs, and even the nocturnal creatures approached without fear. Nature itself recognized the miracle, reinforcing the village's realization that life and death are not always what they seem. From that day on, the clearing became sacred. Villagers came to honor the plant, offering gifts and prayers, not out of fear, but out of gratitude. It became a symbol of redemption, reminding them that even the darkest acts can be transformed by the unseen forces of life. Amahal, now a living testament to hope and resilience, shared her story with anyone who would listen, teaching the village and travelers alike that miracles can emerge from tragedy in the most unexpected ways. And so, the truth was revealed, not in words or explanations, but through the silent, glowing presence of a child transformed into life itself. The village, once consumed by fear and superstition, now stood united in awe, forever changed by the power of love, life, and the mysteries of the earth.